Welcome to the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society. Welcome to ITSP Magazine Podcast Radio. You're about to listen to a new episode of Audio Signals. Get ready to take a journey into the known, the unknown, and everything in between. Recorded at no specific point in time nor space, ITSP Magazine's co-founders Marco Ciappelli and Sean Martin follow their passion and curiosity as they venture away from the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society to discover new stories worth being told. Knowledge is power, now more than ever.
Okay, we're live. We're recording. Just pretend that we don't know about it. Let's just keep having a conversation. And hello, everybody. You're just listening to us rambling.
Nothing new for me either.
No.
Here we are.
They probably expect a lot more from Rafael and Carey. At this point, we just get together and we were just having this idea. Say, you know what? We don't need to plan anything. Let's just talk about what comes in your mind. And Rafael, you just started with the comment about some robot that was in the news, I think yesterday.
Yeah. So I think this was back on Friday, where Elon Musk showed the latest iteration of his robot. And there is definitely a question that we should answer in terms of what is the robot useful for, which may or may not be anything. But it was interesting because on the one hand, you've seen like Boston Dynamics and others showing early specialized version of robots, just like, can we get the thing moving? Can we show different types of movement? And of course, Elon Musk, being Elon Musk, is just like, hey, we're going to have this robot out soon and it's going to do everything and you'll be able to order one for under $20,000. And meanwhile, you're like, but what actually is it? And so the story that I wanted to bring up was that last year when the robot was unveiled, it was a person in a suit. It was a dancer in a suit. And that was not that different from when I think this was 2013 when Rony Abovitz, the CEO of Magic Leap, he did a TED Talk, and he wanted to talk about the AR glasses that he hadn't yet built. And so what he did was he had this kind of showy presentation that used the Monolith music from 2001, the really bombastic music, and he had he had people dressed up in ape suits and astronaut suits come on stage and kind of do like showy motions and like hold things up and then just start dancing. And I think that there's a thread there where you have really ambitious CEOs who want to change the world, and they may not fully understand their own technology that their companies are building. And when they know that the thing isn't really ready and they don't know how long it's going to be till it's ready. And so they basically devolve into vaudeville. They're like, let's just get some people out and have them dancing and that'll be enough bread and circuses. And hopefully people will rely on my reputation and the people dancing there on stage, and then they'll imagine something and it'll be better than anything I can show them. And so that's the thing I wanted to bring up, is that there's sometimes this element of showmanship around technology where they kind of want to do the whole like Steve Jobs iPhone reveal where it's all perfect but everything is in lockstep, and they don't have that. And so when they don't, someone like Rony Abovitz or Elon Musk just goes, get a dancer in a suit. Well, so I'll start with that.
We did a lot of that, the whole dog and a pony show at Electronic Arts, with the whole demos. Remember those demos where you would show them a game that was never going to be built, but you would show that to the press, and then by the time the game actually got out, it was a completely different situation. But I think, to your point, I mean, a lot of the new technology is like that. I mean, if you look at, we've been talking about quantum computing for the last 10 years. People have been saying that it's going to be the end of the world. But if you really dig deep into it, we're 30 years out from anything like that even becoming commercially viable, right? There's one Canadian firm doing that qubit stuff. To process one qubit, you have to sell your house. That's how expensive it is. I mean, it's not coming back. But yet, if you look at popular media, I mean, even if you look at reputable sort of like Harvard Business Review and MIT Press, like, they're talking about quantum computing being the end all, be all. It's going to solve all our problems. It's going to put us beyond the solar system. Yet we are still using alphanumeric passwords. Go figure.
Is there no? I forget what the term is you see at the beginning of every corporate deck when they're presenting to a public audience. It says they're not promising anything from a financial revenue projection perspective. What's that?
Only an IPO. You're supposed to say that only if you're doing your S10 for the IPO or whatever.
Well, I think even if you go public, I think there's some forward-looking statement stuff you have to qualify things with. So I'm just wondering. We know this particular individual likes to hype things, and who knows if it's being done with intention to manipulate stocks.
His name.
Yeah. Well, the key is that they need to have a disclaimer. You know, it needs to be kind of the equivalent of like, this technology was inspired by actual science. It's not real science. We don't really have technology, but it's inspired by the notion of science.
So it sounds like the disclaimer on the movies that nothing was referring to real people and fact that actually happened. It's kind of like we're just going freestyle here.
So
do we? And Raf, I know you want to talk further about AI and education.
So just to close out that story, I think that. And I caught this at one point that Musk talked about how he's trying to not have Tesla be thought of as a car company, and that he's trying to trade on the full service driving, which is still far from, the FSD is still far from actually being functional, but he's trying to rebrand Tesla as an AI company. And so I think it's interesting that when people are trying to rebrand or pivot their company, that oftentimes they're trying to go into a new area and then put together a dog and pony show that says like, hey, this is going to be different. We're going to be different. Invest in us, increase our stock size, because we might be working in this area and we're going to show you some sizzle and not yet the steak in this area.
So you guys familiar with Acme, right? And Willy Coyotes. So it's a company that makes everything, but apparently not much works when you start building it. So I'm wondering, you're digging a tunnel, you're making cars, you're going to space, and that going to space is apparently working really well. So, but at the same time, it's like, are you everything, or are you focusing on something very specific?
You've got to keep in mind he's just the face of the company. The people who actually do the stuff, the SpaceX engineers hate him. They don't let him anywhere near. They actually don't even reveal much to him, because if you tell Musk that you've made 10% progress, he claims 100% and goes to the press next day, and then these guys are bloody scrambling to get shit done. He did that with OpenAI. He did that with Neuralink, the whole pig thing. I don't know if you saw that. The implants into the brain, and the pig could actually they could make the pig do some stuff. That's what's happening.
Dance like an ape. That's what's
I think you've actually got kind of a point there, which is if you think of it not in terms of the logical work that needs to be done and how complex some of that work is, but if you just started from Elon Musk wants to have a bunch of companies that provide essential technology for running a Martian colony. Robots, Cybertruck Martian rovers, drilling underground, and general space travel. Those things kind of fit together. Now, the problem is that he's almost approaching it from the perspective of a science fiction novelist. Like, if he writes it, then it's done, and he needs to do more than like announce it on Twitter. And I think that the problem is that Musk is primarily a financial person, and he's not really a scientist or an engineer in a number of these fields. And so he's basically going, I need to just build a bunch of companies, and then I can be the next, like, to make an alien reference, the next Weyland-Yutani. Like, he wants to have the variety of companies needed for space exploration about 50 to 100 years too soon.
Oh, I think he's got a fantastic PR engine running this whole show for him. So one of the discussions I had last week when I was talking to a bunch of really incredibly smart people was the whole concept of fully immersive AR, VR sort of experience. And we talked a bit about Ready Player One. We touched a bit about the Wachowski sisters now, the Matrix guys. And then we talked about and then we touched a bit about Neuralink in terms of can you really achieve that level of sort of immersive experience wherein you transform your consciousness from this realm to a virtual realm. And then if you can do it, why would you want to come back? So I thought that was an interesting sort of a question, because if you look at Ready Player One, if you look at Matrix, that's what they do. They literally transform into the virtual realm, and that's where they live. They experience everything there, and then they have to come out. And so the debate we had was, why would you want to come out? And my question to that was, how are you absolutely sure that we are not in one already?
I'll give one quick tie of this to the previous conversation, which is that you'll want to come back because your Neuralink will take you to a robot working on Mars, which will be your job. And once you finish your job, you'll want to come back to your body on Earth.
Why? Why would again, Raf, and take it? Why would you want to come back? The fact that you're loaded in virtual.
The battery's drained. You have to recharge.
Wait. Are you talking about Avatar? Cameron's Avatar? Because it's the same thing, right? You just upload yourself.
That's it. You just upload yourself, and that ties into the whole. If you look at the cryogenic stuff where people are freezing themselves, and the whole point is that they are going to be able to upload their consciousness into a future. I mean, the head. They don't care what happens to the body, but they want the head or the brain part of it to be transformed into some future virtual sort of.
I have the answer.
You do, Sean. The wise one.
You know why I'd want to come back? Because whoever's running that one that I was in sucks, and I want to go into a different one. Because will there only be one? I don't know. I think there will be many.
But why do you have to come back, though? That's the thing. Like with the virtual world, you can transcend boundaries. You don't need to come back into you can go. The whole point of the physics of that allows you to go from one dimension or one plane to another plane without coming back to this specific thing.
All right, so I have a question, because I'm kind of thinking about where we started and, of course, where we could go, which is, anywhere. But so I'm thinking, actually, that Tim Cook from Apple, just Friday, I believe, he says something
Mr.
about
Apple,
the fact that he doesn't think that really, Mr. Apple, that he thought that maybe the metaverse is so non-easy to define. He would say, the average person wouldn't tell you what the metaverse is. So he presented more as augmented reality with VR to be a more pragmatic first step or advanced step that will be an immense step, right? Think about, practicing surgeries and practicing, educations and teaching and all of that. So what I'm thinking is, on one side, there is the big hype for the future, even if maybe it's an imaginary future, maybe it's the utopia or dystopia one, but it's fueling an industry. And on the other one, I'm wondering, I'm not saying, that Tim Cook is on the right side of things to be a little bit more pragmatic, but do we need to emphasize and play with the fantasy to sell technology advancement, or can we just do a little bit of a step at a time? Because everything seems impossible until you do it. Flying, for example, going to the moon, and now we are going back there, apparently.
Well, I do think the hype is necessary to an extent, right? I mean, technology on its own is very dry. You ever tried explaining the benefits of math to somebody? You put them to sleep in 30 seconds. But so, I do think, I do believe some of the hype is necessary. And to Cook's credit, he explains that why this is needed, or why. Apple does that all the time. They look at what everybody else is doing, and they take 10% of that, really make it really well, and then basically hype the heck out of that. And then people basically pay them a premium for it. And I know Raf definitely has a few things to say about that. But we talked about this, Marco, probably in the first time we talked about the whole technology versus creativity, and where's the influx of it, and where does AI come into the fact. So I think some of the hype is needed to sell technology. Otherwise, no one's going to fund technology on its own. My thoughts.
So I think that there's actually an interesting distinction that Tim Cook is making, and within the XR community, we kind of think of AR, VR, eventually MR, and then down the road an integrated XR that combines all of them. And Metaverse is often associated with VR, going into a world, being present, being there, looking around, and feeling like you have been put into another world, and that when it is successful, you are present in another space. Apple has expressly basically said, we're skeptical of that. Not skeptical that it can be done, but skeptical that everybody wants to do that. And I think that that's fair. Tim Sweeney, the head of Epic, called this out back in 2015, where he said that VR would probably be limited, and that AR would be the thing that would, some form of AR glasses or visors had the better chance of replacing the smartphone. Basically going from, hey, I've got a phone in my pocket, to I've got a pair of glasses, maybe supplemented by a watch, Apple glasses, Apple Watch, Apple, base station at your hip. But the notion that you could have some amount of devices, but that they don't obstruct your vision, that you can still see the world around you. And Apple has been much more focused on that. And I think, frankly, because, there's been a general analogy made in the XR community that if VR is your TV or your console, that AR or AR/MR is your phone. That even if we get to the point of where it is very immersive to go under a headset, people probably don't want to do it all day. But this, you take with you everywhere, absolutely everywhere, to the extent that Wired did a thing recently on do people take their phones into the shower? And they checked with their editors, and half the editors took their phones into the shower. and when like people put MagSafes in their shower so that they could just have it sitting there and and tap it to check a notification. This is our second brain. We've gotten to the point of where few people have this far from our, you have it in your pocket, you have it in your hand, you put it on your desk. You don't give it to anyone else because it's yours. It's part of you. It's a collection of memories and notes and messages and contacts. And this thing becomes this thing, and this thing becomes AR glasses. And that's what Apple is chasing, because it's much more compelling to go, can I sell you the device that everybody needs? And VR is not that yet, and maybe at some point will be. But AR glasses, everybody could use those, and they could be more, frankly, connected and addictive and perfect than this.
So I've got a bit of an unpopular sort of opinion here. How is this different from being a drug dealer? Because all this is doing is, this is just a dopamine sort of delivery system. You're notifying. Literally, that's what you're doing. I mean, when you're looking at notifications, like it's a small hit of dopamine. Like your social bloody media is that. And this just becomes the medium from which you consume, or which is the trigger to your dopamine. So philosophically, how are they different from the cocaine?
I like that. And it's funny because I found an article that maybe I will mention towards the end. It was about video games and how they put addiction into the games. Maybe, it was on the New York Times. So that was one of my ideas too. To bring to the table, but you went there with the dopamine, and while I was reading this article, I'm thinking like, but isn't everything that we enjoy in life addictive, right? So I'm getting very philosophical here. Like, not everything.
No, it doesn't have to be addictive. Like, I mean, look, I mean, I enjoy watching a good movie from time to time. Doesn't mean I'm addicted to the movie.
No.
I enjoy traveling from time to time. Doesn't mean I constantly want to be on the road. But so let me put it this way. I enjoy movies. I enjoy fantastic food. But if I don't get fantastic food, I can still do with normal food and be okay with it. Cocaine, if I don't get a hit, I mean, I don't snort cocaine, but if I did, I would be very miserable if I didn't.
All right, so I can see the addiction into video games. I can see it in gambling. I can see it in
social media.
It is
social media.
Serotonin receptors. That's what we do. It is an addiction, whether you like it or not.
But
everybody has their own, and
but
these
the
are probably
iPhone,
the more common ones, right? But everybody probably their fetishes could also be addiction, which not everybody has the same.
No, but the phone thing, I think the phone companies, well, I think not so much the phone companies, actually social media has made these the most perfect dopamine systems. Right. So and then games did that, video games did that, the whole like conquer every level with a small bit of, it's a repetitive task. You do that small win till you go the big boss. So
let's distinguish. There's a difference between social media and social media sending notifications and specifically setting up addictive loops, as opposed to this where I just go, this is incredibly convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Or I go, oh, I'm protective of it because it has lots of my personal data. But I think that a thing that's important to think about is that, and like I remember getting the first iPod Touch when, right after it was announced. Like I didn't pick up the first iPhone, but I picked up an iPod Touch so I could develop on it. And my immediate thing when I held it in my hand was, oh, this is a computer. This is because the iPod, like the iPod Classic wasn't. But as soon as you had a screen there, it was a computer. A BlackBerry was still like a BlackBerry or a Palm Pilot. Those were still limited, or a pager. But as soon as you had a screen and a virtual keyboard, and you could type, and you had enough of GPU to be able to render something, it was a computer.
Well, I think it's also the operating system, Raf. You can't discount the OS, which basically made it so convenient to do things that you couldn't do on the other stuff.
But I think it's important.
But we are tool users, and this is a tool, and it's most convenient.
Are we using the tool, or the tool using us?
All right.
There you go.
So, it's what you do with it. I know. It's what everybody says. Like the gun is not dangerous. Is is how you use the gun, right? I mean, I can totally debate that one, but I'm just saying something that people say a lot.
Went from Universal to PG-13.
but the phone. I mean, if I think about how many useful things I do here, like every time I have a question, I don't know a word, obviously, if your phone is Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, and you don't take advantage of all the other unbelievable things that you can do, great photography and a bunch of other stuff, then again, is the app that are using it within the phone that create that addiction. But it's not an addiction to the phone. It's an addiction to what is in the phone.
Well, what it allows us to access. I mean, it's just an access point. It gives us access to so many things that it's simplified. I wouldn't even call it simplified. I mean, it's made it cheaper to I mean, you take photography, for example. I mean, just 10 years ago, and if you want to be a good photographer, you need to spend a few quid to go get a good camera and stuff.
And actually learn how to be a photographer, learn about exposure and shutters and
everything. So, I mean, remember the times when you used to actually have to look at a bloody map before you went to a new town and plan your route and stuff like that. Most kids can't even read a map these days. But I mean, in the end, we function. I mean, we function. This generation, we function perfectly fine without these devices. These devices, but now we can't. So now when you lose your phone for more than 20 minutes and you're panicking, you literally have bloody panic attacks.
Well, and if you think about it, we got to the point of where the internet was necessary. And now we've gotten to the point where
it's necessary or not necessary.
Necessary, where people can't apply for jobs without the internet. They oftentimes can't do parts of their jobs without the internet, and so we've gotten to the point where devices and the internet have become necessity. We will probably get to the point where, if you use the term loosely as metaverse, but you basically say the metaverse is a real-time 3D synchronous multi-user successor to the internet. It's transmitting data online and allowing people to pull and push 3D data so that people can play games better, or they can wear a VR headset or an AR headset. Will that become addictive? Yes, it will, in the same way that the internet is addictive, or that movies are addictive, or that anything that is useful or enjoyable is addictive. People will need to control that behavior, and it's different from push notifications. It's, if something is incredibly useful, you still shouldn't do it all the time. You should still go, I should go outside and take a run, or get some sun, or go on a hike. You can go, hey, my car is addictive, or the TV is addictive. The point is that humans, as tool users, we really like to use tools. We are basically primates that are really, really good at using tools and then getting lost in our tools. And it is important as a society to be able to understand that we will keep making better tools, and our tools, by being really good, will be really addictive. And we shouldn't layer things on top to push you to the tools. We need to do things to pull you out of them.
So a question for that, about the whole metaverse thing. If you do something in the metaverse should the consequences be felt in this world, or should the consequences?
Ooh, wow, that's deep. Wow,
Marco, you crack me up, man.
Well, and so yes, but the metaverse, the worlds hosted within that do not need to have the same rules. If you are,
Raf, like if let's say we're in the metaverse and I bully you, or I do something to you, or
right.
you do something, or I mean, we do a trade, should that, if I sign a contract in the metaverse, can it be legally binding in this world? And so is there...
Not if you don't come out of it. Just stay in there.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that so this is a distinction that people are starting to think about, which is that there are certain rules of behavior that that shouldn't make a distinction about where you are, whether you are online or offline, and that online, metaverse or not, is just a means of facilitating communication. But then you go, okay, if I'm driving 120 miles an hour in a model of a Lamborghini in Need for Speed, I shouldn't be hit with a fine for speeding in the real world, because the rules of that virtual world are that it's Need for Speed and you should speed because you have the need for it. But if you defraud someone, and then it should come down to, if you defraud them, so think of it like, if you defraud them of real money, that should be different than if you defraud them from, let's say, World of Warcraft money. You defraud someone of World of Warcraft money, you should be punished. But if you defraud them of money in the real world, then you should probably be punished more severely.
So let's talk about Westworld.
Oh, no, Westworld. Okay, you want to go there?
Well, no, I'm just saying. So there is this idea where you go experience a different world where you pretend to kill people because you're in an environment, you're using a gun and you're doing duel and you want to live the life.
I don't think the Westworld is that. It was I think more about, it was just, Westworld was created for entertainment. It was literally like a themed bloody park.
Yeah, but you kind of like pretend to go in a universe where maybe you're shooting a robot. I mean, and
well,
you are,
no consequences. Yeah,
there's no consequences because you go into this metaverse or fake universe where those rules don't apply. So in a way, I'm following Rafael with that is the fact that each world has its own rules, and if you want to go into a metaverse that is with no rules, and you want to be a complete crazy delinquent and psychopath, I wouldn't go there, right? But it's your choice. It's your choice in the end.
The question is that, so you upload your avatars and we get to a point where we can put some of our consciousness in there. But let's say Raf and I in a metaverse, and I defraud Raf, not money part of it, just say I do something bad to him. We come out, or I play a game unfairly, I cheat and I win the game, and suddenly I'm the champion in the metaverse, and again I get accolades and stuff like that, or my avatar gets accolade. Mm-hmm. Does that, and everybody knows who Raf is in real and what his avatar is in the metaverse, and they know me. Does that transcend back out into the real world? So when Raf and I meet up, does he call me a cheat, or does he say, "Oh, that's totally fine"? The metaverse. So
there will be consequences because you have a relationship in both worlds, and therefore,
even if you don't have a relationship, let's say you don't have a relationship. I mean, esports where you're doing stuff. Well, esports has got legal consequences, but I'm talking about situations like that when in the. Do you have a family in the metaverse? You have a family.
I think if you're going to create these worlds, everything that we know in our physical life will have to be replicated. And how much, how fast? I think,
Why?
Why
does it have to be replicated? The whole point of being in the metaverse is that you are able to do impossible things.
Because of the things you're saying.
Right.
Well, what's the point of the metaverse?
If you're in there and you don't like it, and I wrote a piece
Well, I'm
in
just saying that
2017. If you don't
if
like what you're in and it's missing something that you have nostalgia for in the physical world, you may want to come out of that to escape the crap that's in the metaverse and come back to a world that you have something you want to experience that isn't available.
Well,
or to escape.
Let me pose a
crazy
different
lunatic shooting shit up.
Same question, a different. Are you allowed to basically subject someone to the consequences in real world based on the actions they took in the metaverse?
Yes, the developer or publisher is. So I think the distinction that's important.
You're talking about the legal part of it. I'm talking about the non. I'm talking about just general.
I think the consequences are in that world for sure.
Yeah. Well, and so I think this is where it's important to not go when you're in the metaverse, where if it becomes too vague and touchy-feely and like it's going to be like Snow Crash. It's like, no, maybe at some point in the future that we don't yet understand, we'll get to where everything is connected, but our technology is not like that. And the next iteration that we are likely to have is lots of 3D worlds that will have portals between them, just like we have a web, but you don't seamlessly go across the web, you go between different websites. And the reality is that when you are within the domain of one game or virtual world or website, you are beholden to their rules. You are within Facebook, you are beholden to their rules. And that, I think, is the next iteration that we can kind of look at and understand, is that you go, okay, I go into Call of Duty Warzone and I can shoot people in the face because that's allowed. But what I can't do is team kill my own team, or do certain things to grief, or set up an aimbot and hack people, or hack people such that I transfer inventory from them to me without their permission. There are things that you can do within the bounds of the game or virtual world or domain, and then there are things you can't do. And when you steal from another player, then the publisher developer generally gets in the mix and they try to sort that out. It only goes out to the real world when you go, oh, hey, this person, like when the perpetrator touches the real world, like they go, I don't like this streamer, and so I'm going to dox them, and then I'm going to SWAT them. I'm going to call the cops on them to go to their real world location because I don't like what they did in a stream. At that point, it touches the real world. And so I think that within the bounds of different websites or virtual worlds, the person or company responsible for creating that polices that, but as soon as it touches the real world, then some amount of folks, individuals or companies go, this person broke real world rules and we need to push them, and often connect the actions and go, they said this thing here and then they did this thing over here, and these are tied together, and this is evidence of the other.
So what if it's a decentralized metaverse? What do you do then?
Then we've got Mad Max's Thunderdome. Basically, and this is why I don't believe that will ever happen, because I don't think that we have the technology to do it, and I don't think that we have the humanity to do it. I think that a fully decentralized notion and generally shows that we will tear each other apart. And you know, like in metaverse discussions, I will often bring in the online rules that Raf Koster has collected across the last 30 or so years of online MMOG games. And there's just an amazing plethora, and I'll send them around, but of just observations. And these are rules that different designers across different MMO companies have basically said or lectured or made individually, and then he's collected them together and been like, in the MMO space, these are the rules because this is what we've seen. And it's mostly a lot of like, people expect to be lawless, but they also expect to be taken care of. And like there's a whole range of things where you basically go, in the end, these folks are customers and they want a curated experience and they want a good experience. And everybody wants, everybody has kind of like a decentralized, like, I want it to all be until it works against them. And so the last thing I would say connected to that is that it's important to remember that part of this decentralized notion comes out of libertarian ideology, and that works really well if you live in, like that works really well if you live off in a forest in New Hampshire. But as soon as you want roads and you want postal delivery and you want fire trucks, decentralized doesn't work that well in the real world or in the virtual world. People want protection and they want adjudication and they want to be safe.
So I would venture and say that it's not libertarian. I think it's just humans. I mean, I would totally love to not pay taxes and get everything for free. I think it's a base human nature. Everybody wants to have their bloody cake and eat it too, right?
I think that the big difference is that you choose to go into this world. And when you choose to go into this different world, you want that experience. You do need to play by the rules of those worlds. I think you do it in video games too, right?
What if you're born in the metaverse?
But that's a different story. You have the option not to go there. But so far, I don't have the option to get out of real life. Now we can question, are we into a simulation? But that's still, I don't know where the door is to get the hell out of here. So I'm forced to have a social contract. We need to pay taxes. We need regulation. But when we go into this, and I don't even want to call it metaverse, because I think that the metaverse should be, if it's one metaverse, it should be all connected. And that's the impossible one that we say right now, probably not going to happen. So each one is going to have its own different rules, different experience. Ready Player One, you go in different planets, in different areas where one is there's no gravity, another one has different rules that apply, another one is in pixel, in 8 bits or whatever it is.
Wreck-It Ralph too. I mean, isn't that he's going through multiple different worlds and like with different rules? He's literally traversing between game lands with different rules, and he suddenly realizes that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wreck-It Ralph was basically a metaverse movie.
And I think that we're kind of reconnecting with the hype here. We started with the hype of the robot that can do everything. Let's define everything. Now we are kind of talking about this metaverse. There's like, okay, there is this metaverse where you could do everything, but isn't that a hype as well? And maybe we do need to go into a universe of like a video game, a World of Warcraft, which is more delimited than, I would like to bring the stuff that I own in that world in another world. But then what if the rules there are that you could get my lots and get my inventory, and all of a sudden then I go back in the other world, I got nothing. It's the Wild West. So
we can't figure out this world, right? I don't know how, and the idea that technology is going to solve this problem, either box us in where there's no rules, no ways to break the rules or whatever. I don't believe that's going to happen because again, it's humans creating the technology. So
and using it.
Interesting about being born in the metaverse. And so I see a lot of kids these days. They literally have their most important life experiences inside the virtual world. So in that case, so I'm going back to my old question. One, so they are literally metaverse virtual babies. I mean, right from the time they're born, they only know that world. Their best friends are in that world. Their birthdays are in that world. They spend money in that world. They care less for how they appear in the physical world, but they do care for, and gamers and game companies exploit that. But then I go back to the whole the whole question I asked, like in this scenario where now you've got a kid whose whole social construct is defined within a virtual world, besides the fact that he's got to do the human stuff and be physically present, but otherwise he's virtually in that world. So there, in that case, the consequences of what you do in the metaverse, does that transcend outwards? Should it transcend? And who controls that?
I just want to say that I want to use the phrase "do the human stuff."
T-shirts, Rab. Let's make T-shirts out of that.
Let's do the human stuff.
I'm copywriting that. But yeah,
at what point wouldn't you do the human stuff? Like, for example, when you're in a universe that is, again, I go back to Ready Player One. I love that book, but the life outside of the Oasis sucks, at least for a lot of, like, the main character. You got nothing, but he can build a future. And then there is the
though, for a lot of people, that Oasis is the only world they know. In fact, for them,
but that's where they work, that's where they make the money. So it's already, you don't really have that choice anymore, right? So
yeah,
I hope we always gonna have this
body
choice.
if that's all we need.
Well, I mean, so again, I'm going to go back. I mean, you look at making the whole bloody thing, and everything is happening. I've seen kids do that. They come back from school, they're like glued to the stuff, and now all of the interactions happen. Like you ask them who their best friends are, who do they want to call for their birthday party? And like, nobody, because I'm having my birthday party in the virtual world, and we are going to do this quest. And this is literally happening in this world.
But who fails there? Is this the education system that fails? Is the parents that fails?
Technologists fail. It's a collective thing. It's not just one entity, right? I mean, schools can only take care of the kids in a certain point in time, for a certain amount of time. Parents can, but then I think, honestly, I blame corporate capitalism for it. We push this into every home. We push this desperately. Hey, Raf and I made a living off this for a few years, pushing games.
Corporations are the educators. They're creating the platforms that are bringing the people together, that they're educating each other.
I mean, we used to be influenced by books and stuff.
The corporate.
Now it's like video games and bloody TikTok videos. I'm getting lessons on physics from Carey B on TikTok.
I don't, because I'm not there. But okay, so how about TV? Okay, when TV came out a while back, and then it developed into multi-channels, wasn't just one, main state TV. And people started to worry about it. Like, I think it was in the 80s when I was a kid, a teenager in the 80s. And everybody was talking about how TV is addictive, and kids would go from one program to another. And it was the new babysitter because, you wouldn't go out and play. Now, given me personally, never got addicted to that. I was more addicted to go out and play soccer with my friends and do things. But it wasn't as pervasive as technology nowadays, because now you can go with your video games from the one you play on the TV platform to move it to your computer, move it to your phone, and you can play even in a grass, field. So the things have changed, but the point is, but the point is, I still keep saying that there is a choice and there is education that need to be done. Meaning, why are kids so much more addicted nowadays to the video game than to be addicted to the dopamine that you get by playing sport with your friends, or hanging out with your friend, or I don't know, go on one wheel on your motorcycle all day long?
Right.
Well, society has changed right now, so kids are not afforded that kind of freedom outside their houses, unfortunately.
Right.
We had our addictions, Marco. We had comic books. We got a lot of stuff from comic books. The back page, all the ads. Remember the Daisy gun, the pea shooter, and then the seahorses, and buy the rock. Did you guys have a rock pet? I thought that was
it's the pet rock.
stupid thing. But
the seahorses.
You just moved that out from comic books to TV.
Mexican jumping beans. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Also easy to get bored with it eventually because there wasn't somebody giving you always every 5 seconds a new addiction.
You had an issue every week. You had a brand new issue every week. You all the cool kids would hang out at the comic book store, and so we've just taken that and said instead of coming to the store, we'll bring the store to you.
So I will say that I do think that we will always have new expressions of technology, new expressions of entertainment. We always do. We find new ways to distract ourselves, and the ones who adapt that the most quickly are our youth. So I don't think that it's something specific to games. Games, comics, rock and roll, whatever it is, kids are the ones who adapt new means of expression the quickest because they're still learning interfaces and learning to adapt and learning what the world expects of them. And so I think the important thing there is, it is important for parents not to necessarily know exactly all the things that their kids are into or how those things run, but it is important for parents to be aware of the time that kids are spending and to balance that and go, well, you've done this enough, now go outside.
No, but that is if the kids are doing that stuff. You got to understand a lot of these things happen outside. When they go, you can send your kid outside, but literally they're in a playground or going to a coffee shop and just playing games out there. You can't. I mean, so look, I think parents, teachers, it's a collective thing. I think it's a collective thing.
You're talking about analog versus digital, right? I mean, this digital virtual world allow you to, all the things that you mentioned that you were addicted in the 80s, they were tangible things. They were things that you needed to print.
I remember my parents telling me, don't read comic books, but I literally had my biology book open.
I know, but even when you were doing that, it wasn't that addiction that you would isolate yourself the entire 24 hours of the day out of it. You would have those moments like, I love to play guitar. Fuck it, I'm going to play guitar for an hour or something else, right? But the point is, now in a way you're trading either your life in a digital world for your life in the real world. It's kind of like there is not that delimitator anymore.
So we also have access, or there's also so much rubbish out there, and it's like packed. Take TV, for example. And my favorite thing to do in the TV, you know what's my favorite show on the TV? Picking up the remote and switching through channels because I want to know what else next. That literally is a problem. Like
it's an addiction right there.
It is an addiction. Literally, if you give me the TV remote, that's it. I'm done. I'm going to sit there and just do this. Like, probably going to get 10 nights of my.
Or is it you're escaping from the commercials in that current channel?
Sometimes the commercials are more informative. But the thing is, I think it's not. I think part of this, and I was thinking about the other day, like, why do I do that? I don't do that with books. I have tons of books, and I'll read one book.
Are you doing this with live TV? Oh, wow.
I don't watch sports, Raf. So for me, sports has got no. So for me, it's like, it's not just me. And I was actually reading about it. It's a lot of people. They just want to know what you want what is there in front of you, but you also want what you might be missing out on. So
fear of missing out. That famous
FOMO, though. It's almost like parallel FOMO. You want everything. So you can't really process everything.
So in that, like, are you going to the cable guide and then just kind of like scrolling through that?
Yeah. Sometimes.
Okay. Yeah. So I used to have that behavior, and then I just stopped subscribing to cable.
Well, I stopped watching TV. That was nice.
Like I only watch, I only watch the shows that I plan to watch, and I just stopped watching live TV. Like cutting the cable cord and going like, I have cable for internet, and that's it. was incredibly helpful to my well-being.
So Carey, let me ask you, because this is a good point. I mean, are you jumping from one Netflix show to a Disney show while you're actually watching the show?
Oh no, dude, I'm in Netflix going through the scroller. No.
But once you pick the show, do you watch it all the way, or you just stop like at 10 minutes and be like, oh, let me see if there's...
I mean, it depends. I mean, I don't watch many shows, but if I pick a movie, I will watch it throughout. I mean,
okay, so we're still in this kind of sane...
Getting to that point is a problem, right?
No, but I've done that. I've done few evenings, maybe late, that I'm like, I don't want to commit to an entire movie. Plus, I like to watch documentaries, but I will be like trying to decide what to watch for the next half hour before I go to bed. And I spend the whole half hour trying to decide what to watch. And then I'm like, fuck it, I'm just going to go to bed. So I've done that. I feel you.
Happens to me all the time.
I actually want to push this back to the metaverse for a second, and I want to throw an idea out there. So I can remember back when in the last wave of VR, and I was trying to convince people about the importance of clouds and of online, where people seem to be surprisingly fine with just having like VR single player games. And I was like, no, like the important thing with VR or with any of this stuff is to be connected. We like computers because they're connected. We don't want to disconnect our computers or our consoles or our smartphones. Why would we want to be offline in VR? And the metaphor for kind of where I see things going and what I would describe as like to go from like the internet is, this, we talk about the World Wide Web, but it's more than just the web. The internet as a whole is this global connected layer, but it's basically one layer because there's a limited amount of information.
It's literally an access. It's just access to everything that's available.
Yeah.
What it is. So I have a question for that. I mean, this whole the reason I brought the TV stuff is not to highlight my lack of decision making. There's plenty of that, but given the fact that we've got so many choices, the fact that we are overstimulated, is that contributing to the younger generation having more of a problem with focusing on stuff? Is that what we're doing? Are we pushing too much? And I noticed this when my nephew, I went to his music school, and when they were getting younger kids, and one of the ways they want to see if you got the chops to learn theoretical music is they give you a piano and tell you to press a key and hold it pressed down till the final notes are done. That's to test your patience. A lot of the kids don't have that. They would let go of that, and so are we creating a situation where kids can't focus on stuff, or they have just
too much choice?
I don't know.
Too many choices of what I'm going through. I want all of this, but I want a brain that is able to process all of this and make it useful instead of.
So this is I'm gonna go to an older generation, like my dad, right? My dad has in Italy this thing called Team Vision, which is like Apple TV, but it's made with the telecom company. Same thing. They also have Apple TV because I had to put it there because, if I'm there, that's what I want to watch. And every day, and they know how to use it. Once in a while, they watch a movie, but most of the time I'll talk to them and they're like, yeah, we'll see what's on TV tonight. And I'm like, everything is on TV because that's the way I think. You go to Netflix, you go to Disney, you go to Apple TV, and you just pick what you want. They are still, because it's easier for them to say, let's flip 3 channels, 5, 10, 15, and then let's decide which one is our best choice. And I think their life is actually a lot easier. And they do sometimes experience something that they weren't planning to experience. They're, in a way, maybe they're more open. Or you can think, well, you're watching what the man tell you to watch, while I have the all choices in the world. But in a way, maybe it's the opposite of the new generation where you're like, it's too much. sometimes I feel like there's too much. I mean, I listen to music 24/7, and sometimes I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna default on my old school hard rock station or my, Black Sabbath and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, you don't want to make a choice. You just want somebody else.
Well, if I keep, well, maybe Siri decided for me, but I have my default. That's what I'm saying, to not go crazy.
Well, so it goes back to the the whole like our brain's capacity to make important decision. Actually, we've got limited. It's not unlimited. So it diminishes as the day goes through. So you make most of the important decisions, but you've got a limited amount of decision making. There's a term that I'm using. The decision making currency actually depletes.
I think generally speaking, and I think it was Raf that pointed this out, that I mean we're basically removing the physical barriers, right? So to go out and play a game of soccer with your friends, you're kind of limited to, well, you're probably going to do that at night unless it's inside an inside arena. You have to get all the people together at the same time,
right.
And hopefully the field's available and somebody else isn't using it. So there are constraints in the physical world that potentially we can remove. And if you look at, and to your point, Carey, around our minds, what are we capable of? When we get exposed to the internet, the physical boundaries of our own little communities go away, right? Which opens us up to new thoughts and new ideas and exposed to different situations, and maybe cultural aspects and things like bullying then come into play, where our minds can handle it. Emotionally, we get stretched, and too much information.
There is another thing, Sean.
Making a decision or not. What's that?
The time becomes relative as well, because everything is always there on demand. You don't have that unless it's a live sport event that you want to watch when it goes live. Back in the days, it's like, yeah, the movie is tonight on 9:30. I gotta be there. I'll see you guys later, to your friends, or I'm gonna have dinner, and then I want to watch the TV. Now it's always there.
You were the guy who went home to watch.
It is
What's
and
that?
it isn't.
So you were the guy who went home to watch Baywatch when it came on.
Yeah, totally. Happy Days when in the 70s, and then I moved to Baywatch. Yeah. And
Well, I would say that the time is there and it isn't. So, as an example, I play some FPSs with friends that are scattered around the U.S. We play in a particular set of hours that can kind of generally match the time zones of people from basically EST to PST.
Well, you control that. Not the other way. I think what Marco was talking about is that stations set programming set at certain time. Somebody else controls it. You would base your life around that. Versus...
Right. Well, but the point is that if I want to, I can watch the latest episode of a Star Wars show or whatever Marvel. I can watch a streaming thing at any time. But as soon as you're doing something social, you are still time constrained, where you generally can, like think of it as anywhere globally, you are probably trying to coordinate with people who are in similar time zones and similar language countries to be able to coordinate and talk with them. And there can be some leeway. You could be like, oh, I'm going to make the effort to deal with lag so that this person from Australia can play and they'll have 250 ping. But for the most part, there is some amount of regionalization around time zones, because latency and the physics of signals moving mean that you can't absolutely go, I can play anywhere at any time with anyone, because our current internet doesn't support that. So it is important on the one hand to still, time is more flexible, but it's still kind of relative. But the other thing I would say, going back to the notion of like kids, is what's becoming more important is not to go like, hey, there's just like, I remember someone recently saying like, we should just have metaverse time. And I'm like, no, I'm sorry, that's stupid. Like we already have, yeah. I'm like, we already have a traditional notion of time, and you can go to like you can use that to go like to Greenwich Meridian time, but metaverse time doesn't need to be a different thing, because everyone lives in a particular place around the globe. You only need metaverse time if you're on like the space station. If you are not bound to the Earth, then maybe you need a different time. You need like Earth time. But if you are on the Earth, you need Earth time in the region that you are in.
Metaverse that it's always on and it's always available. So in that case, why wouldn't you have a UTC or a metaverse time where?
And I would say that we already have that with, we can already say, this is GMT. We have that. We don't need a different thing, because it would just be pick,
different different rules, different laws.
Pick a different location. But I do think that the thing that we need in terms of time is we need to give more of an emphasis from parents to teachers to potentially corporations to teach people about time management. Because when I was a kid, and this is dating myself, when I wanted to go play initially in a game, I would go to the arcades, and it would take time to go to the arcades in Seattle, and to physically travel there and then play a game and then come back. And then like my parents got a first game console, like, oh, I can both program on this and I can play on this. But now we're at a point where computers are everywhere, and we can be endlessly distracted. And it is important to teach people to teach young people especially, that while they can do anything at any time, that they have to specifically think about how they're using and apportioning and dividing up their time in their communication, in their work, in their play, so that they balance. Because it is much easier to go overboard than it used to be. And new generations don't have the same kind of built-in, kind of, let's say, safeguards of, oh, I don't go to watch all the time because I started with a notion of live broadcast, you could only watch a show at a particular time. So someone can now go like, oh, I'm just going to binge 3 seasons of this show one after another for days. That's not good.
Well, that was not available to us. I'm pretty sure if it was available to us, we would have done that.
So new generations can binge in social media, in streaming audio and video in particular, and in games for endless amounts of time. And it's important to teach them limits, and it's important to teach them the value of work versus play, so that they balance those.
The problem is that you can teach your kids, or you can teach anybody limits. The problem is if that's all they're exposed to. So unless you're chaperoning them, you're with them 24/7, you can't prevent that, right? I mean, so that goes back to who's responsible for it, and I still think it's collective. Like
you're responsible, Carey. You know what? Talking about the time, and I'm using the time here because we're well over an hour, and I'm pretty sure we could keep going for another 6 or 7. But talking about metaverse time, whether you create a new one or not, connected to GMT or whatever it is, can you pause time? That's probably not possible
in the metaverse. Yes.
Yeah. Can you pause your position if it's following GMT? And I don't know.
If it's a non-decentralized metaverse, then you potentially can, because then you can control some aspects of it. The moment it becomes decentralized, it just becomes like the universe.
Well, more importantly, if it's single player, you can, in the same way that you can put a bookmark in a novel.
Right.
Single player.
You can't stop the time for everyone else, because the world is just like the real world is going to keep moving. But I was thinking just the same thing. You
can't stop the time for yourself either. You just want to believe that you've stopped it, and
I know. Time is on my side. So
that's right.
I'm just quoting Rolling Stones here.
Well, I'm sad to do this, but let's pause this one.
Party pooper. Well,
human things need to happen at some point.
Yes.
Well,
we need to do some human things.
I think we need to remind what we said at the beginning, Sean, that this from now on we're just like freestyling, and this proved that we can. So stay tuned, because we're gonna keep it straight from here. We're gonna pause this time. We're gonna go live our life, play, and do things, and
we
then
might
the
show
next
up at the
time
same spot or not. You never know.
we're gonna be right here for everyone else. We hope everybody enjoyed the conversation. Makes everybody think. And if it's the case, leave some comments, maybe ask some questions. We probably don't have answers, but we have opinions. That's for sure. We have opinions. So thank you so much again for a fantastic conversation. A lot to think about. And come on, everybody, go out and play. Shut down the computer. And we'll see you next time. Listen to us next time.
That sounds good. Make sure to go out and do some human things.
That's right.
Exactly.
Do the human thing.
Whatever
I
that
am
is.
absolutely copywriting that. I'm actually going to get the domain right.
Make a t-shirt. Let's all wear a t-shirt next time. With that.
Yeah.
All right. Next time, stay tuned on ITSP Magazine.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Audio Signals. If you learned something new and this podcast made you think, then share itspmagazine.com with your friends, family, and colleagues. If you represent a company and wish to associate your brand with our conversations, sponsor one or more of our podcast channels. We hope you will come back for more stories and follow us on our journey. You can always find us at the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and society, and some even beyond that.